I think it's pretty much a consensus that suicide in adolescents and children is on the rise, sadly. And you recently did this interesting research looking at the intersection of that and screen time and the time of day and even the types of medications that kids use in those situations for overdoses. I'm curious what got you interested in that intersection of this?
Yeah, so I do majority inpatient child psychiatry. So we take care of kids who come into the hospital with different mental health issues. And I was seeing more and more kind of adolescents who try to overdose on pills to hurt themselves or kill themselves. And it was happening more in the evening times. And there was a lot of association with screen use. So I was curious, like, because we all know that the numbers kind of are pretty impressive when you look at them, right? It makes you think and understand. And I was curious about the data. So I was wondering if we can look at the data. So we went back and looked at 6 months of overdose attempts in kids who tried to hurt themselves or kill themselves. And then we looked at the time when they did it and if there was a screen association or a screen time link with it. So that's how like my training and also curiosity helped me think about that process.
Yeah, it sounds like you were observing some things anecdotally and you were like, well, what's the hard data behind what's actually happening? Does it line up with what I'm seeing?
Yeah, and there are very few studies too, both in adults and kids, which looked at like the time of overdose or what they were doing before the overdose. So I thought that this would make it more interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating that there hasn't been more studies about that, but that makes your study all the more interesting. So you said you looked at 6 months worth of, I guess, instances of children trying to overdose. So how many children did you look at, and I guess
Yeah.
what did you find?
So in our study, in the age group of 12 to 17, that's where our kids were. We had 52 kids when we looked at 6 months data. And then we might look at later future in the day too. But when we looked at the past records, right, for 6 months, so we had 52 kids, and out of them, two-thirds overdosed on pills to kill themselves after 8 p.m. So between 8 p.m. and I think 6 a.m. And then three-fourths of the whole group were on the screen right before they overdosed. And so those numbers are pretty impressive when you look at it right there, right? Like majority of them are either on the screen or late in the evening after 8 p.m. when they're trying to kill themselves.
Do you know what the kind of the overlay of that was? Like, I don't know, maybe what percentage of them was both, like late at night and also attached to a screen right before it happened?
Not necessarily that way, because I think it is a combination of both.
Okay. Well, when you say they were on a screen, what were they? Do we know what they were doing on a screen, and then how that might have impacted it?
Yeah, so we used screen as both for cell phones or social media or tablets or TV or anything. We included all of them in general. And it's hard to identify individually or percentage wise what they were doing. But just kind of thinking about it or remembering it, a lot of them are either on social media or chatting with their friends, or someone says something to hurt them, or it could be bullying, like a breakup. So different scenarios and situations, but it's hard to quantify that because you're trying to put the percentages and numbers. So it's hard to put like narratives in there and when you collect data.
Yeah, so just attached to a screen in some capacity.
Yes.
This time when children are looking at their screens, and assuming that a lot of them are looking at them in the evening, what is it about using social media or screens or engaging in content as it gets later in the evening? Does that make us more vulnerable to these types of things and the impacts they might have?
That's that's a really good question, Travis. So we do know for sure that poor sleep can impact mental health in adults and kids. The less you sleep, the more depressed, anxious you get. And then when you are more on the screens at night, you don't have distractions. During the daytime, you have a lot of distractions, but at nighttime, you have less distractions. So when those messages are something that comes across on your screen, which triggers you, it makes you kind of more vulnerable. And then you're also ruminating about things at that time. So it kind of pushes you off the edge. And that's what like our study was going to is if you have poor sleep hygiene, access to screens and also access to means, different pills at that time when you're vulnerable, it just pushes you off the edge.
Yeah, I asked that question because I find myself, even though I try my best not to look at any social media or my phone at all in the middle of the night, it's a losing battle if I'm being honest with you. But if I see something and it active like if it gets in my brain, I find it really hard to get it out of my mind at night. A lot harder than during the middle of the day. So it sounds like that I'm not abnormal in that situation.
Yes, and in addition to not having distractions, I think the other thing also is in your sleepy state, you're not using your 100% of your brain. So you're not able to cognitively process things really well. So in the morning, if somebody says something to you, you're like, yeah, well, I don't know if they're getting the complete perspective of it. But at night, if somebody says, then you're like, I really can't process it well. Just like drowsy driving can cause more accidents because you're cognitively not doing well. Very similarly, when you're drowsy, you're not able to process information well.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I'm glad that I'm not it's not just me in that situation, to
Yeah.
be honest with you. Well, what did you learn from your study related to the means of the
So,
overdoses?
yeah. And again, that's a very good question because we were thinking one way, like it could be more over the counter medications
Mm.
for most kids, but our study shows that like it's almost 50-50 split where overdoses are sometimes mixed with over the counter pills and prescription pills. 50% of the time it could be from over the counter pills, and 50% time it could be because of your or family members' prescription pills. So it's kind of all mixed up. And it was not like one is more than the other clearly.
Was that surprising to you?
Yes, I because I was thinking like it could be more over the counter pills, but it was a mix of both.
Well, I'm kind of curious what we can do with this information. I know you mentioned a little bit about sleep hygiene and some things. And specifically, when we're talking about younger people, what are some things that maybe parents, guardians, folks that are the adults in the house can do to help mitigate any potential problems?
Yeah, and I think that was one of the biggest goals of our study. When me and Dr. Farabi looked into it, Dr. Farabi is one of the physicians who's training with us. So we both looked at this. And the main thing that we want to talk about or discuss is how to prevent these and raise awareness in the community, right? So the first thing that I would talk about is having a good sleep hygiene, having a good daytime routine, good nighttime routine, so that kids can, or adolescents and teenagers can go to bed on time an hour before going to bed. And that's the standard recommendation with different organization. And at least an hour before going to bed, keep yourself away from the screen. That will help you relax, have a good nighttime routine. And the third is limiting access to over the counter pills or prescription medications of the kids or the family members. Those three things are pretty important takeaway messages from our study that will help suicide attempts in teenagers down the lane.
Well, I know you mentioned as we were getting started that you have studied a lot about sleep medicine, sleep hygiene, and that's one of your areas of expertise. How did you get interested in that area?
That's a good question because when I was doing my training in psychiatry and child psychiatry, I noticed a lot of overlap between sleep problems and mental health problems. And it is very commonly known in research and other areas that mental health and sleep are bidirectional. It's like a chicken and egg, and they go along hand in hand. And I was like, if I need to treat optimally, I need to get this sleep training too. And that's why I went ahead and did an extra year of sleep medicine training.
So, from doing your training, how has that impacted you as a sleeper? Because I can't imagine if I studied it that much, I wouldn't be taking home some of that information and trying to apply it.
I think like some of the strategies you learn during the training, you use it on yourself, and then that's what I try to do, educate families and kids. And I do take the screens pretty seriously. We don't have TVs in the bedroom in our house, and try to keep away screens as much as we can, and have like a nighttime routine where for like we everybody has a relaxation technique or strategy, and we try to use those. And I try to advocate that for the kids on the inpatient unit and for my outpatient. And I also have a psychiatry sleep consultation clinic, and we try to talk about that in that clinic. So using your training to raise awareness in the community.
Yeah, I think that's great. Well, I guess if If there was one thing you would want people to know about their sleep and their sleep hygiene, what would that be?
I think the screens have kind of invaded into our sleep time. And this is not only me, it's like research and all the organizations are talking about that. So maybe being cognizant of that. And getting back to our study, one of the things that I have seen being helpful for the children and adolescents in having a good sleep hygiene is having a good role model in their family members. So if the whole, like for teenagers especially, right? The whole family having a good sleep hygiene routine really helps the kids. It's very hard for teenagers to understand when their parents are on their TV or phone at night and they're like, go to your bed and sleep. They get confused. But if everyone has a routine, okay, we are all going to have this, and then we are all going to go to our rooms and turn the lights off, relaxation strategies for everyone. I think they learn and understand better from that kind of watch and learn rather than kind of getting lectured. I felt that that was very helpful when I talked to the parents and kids, inpatient and outpatient. And I learned when the families are successful, it is because everybody has a similar routine.
Wow. So us parents, we have to not just preach it, but also practice it, is what I'm
Yeah.
hearing.
Yes. And obviously understanding that sometimes families have to keep their phone together to take care of either other
Mhm.
people or work related and stuff, but explaining it to their kids and role modeling whenever you can, like, hey, we're all going to keep the screens away, or we'll have certain time for certain things, and then we'll have good bedtime so that everyone can have enough rest, and having uniform rules for all the kids in the house. Those kind of things really help.